Tonight, 84 million Americans under weather alerts as this relentless heat wave turns deadly. Hot and dry conditions fueling wildfires across the country. 2 pilots killed trying to fight one in Idaho. Heat-related deaths also reported in Pennsylvania and Texas. Cities like New York and Boston preparing for the hottest days of the year, both making changes to this weekend's triathlons. And Six Flags in New Jersey shut down after the extreme heat caused a power surge. What do you need to know heading into the weekend? Also, the video just in, a small plane crashing just feet from a packed California beach where a junior lifeguard competition was underway. Rescuers racing into the ocean to pull one person from the wreckage. We'll have an update on their condition. Plus, Steve Bannon found guilty. The former Trump advisor convicted on contempt of Congress charges for refusing to testify before the January 6th committee. Intercepted at sea. The Coast Guard finding nearly 200 Haitian migrants packed onto a boat off the coast of Florida. Why Haitians are fleeing in record numbers and what will happen to those migrants now. Water gun shooting. An off-duty corrections officer gunning down a teen in the Bronx who had a water pellet gun. Why law enforcement thinks it could be a TikTok challenge gone horribly wrong. And the heart-stopping video of a Chinese toddler falling from a 5th-floor window. The miraculous rescue from bystanders below. Top story starts right now. Good evening. I'm Gabe Gutierrez in for Tom Llamas. We begin with that deadly heat wave sweeping across the country. More than 250 million Americans facing temperatures above 90 degrees. Highs in the Southwest could top 118 degrees. Heat-related deaths reported in at least 2 states. Vulnerable populations, including young children and the elderly, are at the highest risk. There's also growing concern over the water supply for 40 million people as Lake Mead continues to dry up. And the record-breaking heat could also give way to another round of severe storms in the central U.S. Bill Cairns is standing by with a forecast. But we begin with Jesse Kirch, who leads us off tonight from Philadelphia.
Tonight, millions of Americans kicking off the hottest weekend this year.
I'm like drenched in sweat 24/7.
75 million under heat alerts today. Phoenix hitting 114, Dallas 101, and Philadelphia reaching 96, but feeling like 106 this weekend with humidity.
Isn't it too hot to be running the Rocky Steps?
The heat is rocky.
Out west, torturous temps could exacerbate Lake Mead's drought. Stunning new NASA images show more than 2 decades of shriveling. Extreme heat threatening an estimated 40 million people's water supply. Meanwhile, back east, Amtrak warning it's so hot, some trains need to slow down.
Heat is a silent killer.
This massive heat wave now also turning deadly. Officials reporting heat-related deaths in Texas and Pennsylvania, both victims older with underlying conditions.
What kinds of things can be exacerbated by the heat?
The largest category is going to be patients who have cardiovascular disease. They have underlying lung disease, asthma, COPD.
Heat kills an estimated 1,300 people every year in the U.S., more than any other weather event.
When heat stroke becomes severe, you may become confused, maybe some slurred speech, difficulty walking. Obviously, increased thirst is going to be a sign.
With the elderly and those experiencing homelessness especially vulnerable, groups wasting no time.
Someone literally just said to me, this bottle of water saved my life today.
Heading into a weekend of more record highs, some are stuck toughing it out at work, while others splash around. But no matter what you're doing, in much of the country, there's no cool down in sight.
And Jesse Kirch joins us now live from Philadelphia. Jesse, with so many people in the danger zone for this heat, what are some people doing to stay safe?
Yeah, so first off, here are some big tips from a doctor we spoke with here in Philadelphia. Hydration, right? That is always key, especially in this kind of heat. Stay indoors in the air conditioning as much as possible. Give yourself breaks if you're going to be spending a lot of time outside. And we talk about this often, Gabe, loose-fitting clothing, especially the kind that keeps you from getting sun exposure. A lot of people might think they want that tank top on a day like today, but you actually want loose-fitting long sleeves instead. Gabe?
Good advice. Jesse Kirch live for us in Philadelphia. Jesse, thank you. And this dangerous heat is not over yet, so let's bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns to walk us through the next few days. Bill?
Yeah, Gabe, right on cue. This is typically the hottest week of the year. It's living up to its reputation. And then after we get through in the beginning of August, things usually begin to slowly get a little cooler as the sun starts setting a little earlier in the evening. So right now we're at the peak of the heating in the middle of the country. It still feels like 104 in Little Rock, Memphis, Dallas, 101, Wichita, 103. You get the idea. From coast to coast, it is a very, very hot early evening. And as far as the numbers go through the weekend, we have excessive heat warnings that are up for a little slice there near Philadelphia. Also, our friends from Tucson, the Phoenix, the Vegas are extremely hot. And then we add in all the orange, which is heat advisories, a lower level than the heat warnings. We get 84 million people. So we're almost getting up to about 25-30% of the country. So how hot will it be tomorrow? Tomorrow will be very similar to what we experienced today. About 100 to 105 from Omaha all the way down through South Texas. The East Coast, similar, mid-90s. Be humid in the morning, a little drier in the afternoon. But it's really on Sunday that we peak things out. D.C. hasn't hit 100 since 2016. The forecast is 99. It'll be close. Notice that things will cool off in the Northeast starting Tuesday. And even Lexington, Kentucky, Ohio Valley, St. Louis, you cool off as we get into Monday also. So there is some relief for some people, but none for areas like Dallas and San Antonio. And if we get those record highs, all of the red dots could see them on Sunday, including Hartford, Boston, and Albany. And finally, no relief, Gabe. We are going to watch that heat continuing into the end of July for the eastern half of the country.
Wow, Bill Cairns with the extremely hot forecast. Bill Cairns, thank you. We're also following breaking news in California, where a small plane crashed off the coast of Huntington Beach. The accident, captured on camera as a junior lifeguard competition, took place just feet from where it happened. So let's get right to Vicky Vargas from NBC Los Angeles, who's at the scene with the breaking developments. Vicky?
Evening, Gabe. There are close calls and then there are close calls. And this was both, if you want to put it in perspective. This is one of those planes that carries an advertising banner. It was flying initially from Compton. It went all the way to Malibu, had made a U-turn, and was headed back here towards Huntington Beach. According to the witnesses we spoke with, it didn't make any loud noises. They had no idea the plane was going to fall from the sky. And they describe it as almost descending slowly and getting down to the water's edge. Now, according to those who were here, the pilot got himself out of that plane. And as you say, there were lifeguards, hundreds of them nearby. There's a statewide championship underway. The lifeguards who are participating today are between 9 and 18 years old. Quite a few of them have life-saving skills, so they ran to help this gentleman. The pilot was transported. They're not sure about his injuries, but they don't think they're anything more than minor. But they did send him to a hospital because they want to check him out. We are told that because these lifeguards actually swim some 200 yards out into the ocean, they were actually in between races when this happened. They say they had just finished a race, and so there were very few people in the water. That's how close this plane came to where that competition was going on. Again, witnesses telling us this was perhaps the ultimate close call. The plane has now been pulled out of the water. It's been dragged across the sand, and it will undoubtedly be the centerpiece in an NTSB investigation.
Wow, Vicky Vargas from NBC Los Angeles. An incredible story. I suppose if a plane has to crash, it should crash next to so many lifeguards. Vicky, thank you. To Washington now, a judge finding former Trump advisor Steve Bannon guilty of contempt of Congress after he failed to appear before the January 6th committee. Bannon didn't put up a defense, but had lots to say outside the courthouse. Pete Williams reports.
Just shy of 3 hours after getting the case, the jury came back with its verdict, guilty on 2 counts for refusing to provide testimony and documents to the committee investigating the Capitol riot, which wanted to know about his contacts with President Trump and others leading up to it. Steve Bannon's lawyers did not call any witnesses, instead urging the judge to throw the case out, arguing that the government failed to prove that he intentionally refused to comply. At first, they said Bannon couldn't obey the subpoena because former President Trump asserted executive privilege. Later, they said he never declined to cooperate, he was just negotiating. Then today, they suggested the subpoena was issued without following the rules. But prosecutors said the case was simple. Bannon received a valid subpoena from the January 6th committee and refused to provide anything in response. The jury agreed. Bannon didn't take the stand during the trial, but he did his talking outside, blasting the committee members who the judge said couldn't be compelled to appear.
The gutless members of that show trial committee, the J6 committee, didn't have the guts to come down here and testify in open court.
His lawyers say they'll appeal because the judge said Bannon's reasons for not complying didn't matter legally.
That can't be the standard in a case, especially in a case that holds the potential for a jail sentence.
And Pete Williams joins us now from outside the courthouse in Washington. And Pete, it seems the jury came to a pretty quick decision here. So when is Bannon expected to be sentenced?
Well, the sentencing is now set for October 21st. Of course, in the meantime, his lawyers say they'll appeal, but it's doubtful that would be resolved before the sentencing date. And he's likely to face some jail time because the statute here has a peculiarity. It says there's a minimum of at least 30 days in jail. So we'll see whether the judge says those 30 days on the two counts are served together or one after the other. But he's likely to face some jail time, Gabe.
Our justice correspondent, Pete Williams, thank you. Staying in Washington now, tonight, new calls by members of the January 6th committee for a criminal investigation of former President Trump after last night's explosive testimony about how he failed to take action as the deadly Capitol riot unfolded. Here's Kristen Welker.
Tonight, January 6 committee members are intensifying pressure on the Justice Department to investigate former President Trump after its high-stakes hearing Thursday night.
I sure as hell hope that Merrick Garland has an open criminal investigation into Donald Trump.
It all comes amid new revelations at the hearing overnight, including these outtakes of taped remarks from January 7th, when Mr. Trump refused to say the election was over.
But this election is now over. Congress has certified the results. I don't want to say the election's over. I just want to say Congress has certified the results without saying the election's over, okay?
And the chilling testimony of an anonymous White House security official who said members of former Vice President Pence's security detail were afraid for their lives.
There were calls to say goodbye to family members, so on and so forth.
And on the president's detail, a D.C. police sergeant corroborated key parts of former Trump aide Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, who said earlier Mr. Trump got into an argument with Secret Service agents while leaving the rally, demanding they take him to the Capitol, which they refused to do.
The only description I received was that the president was upset and that he was adamant about going to the Capitol, and there was a heated discussion about that.
A person close to the Secret Service disputes the president ever assaulted an agent, as Hutchinson also alleged, based on what she says she was told, but does not deny the president became furious. Tonight, the agency director saying since day one, he has directed his personnel to cooperate and, quote, we're currently finalizing details and times for follow-up inquiries. The committee recreated the 187 minutes of the attack blow by blow, saying Mr. Trump watched it unfold on TV and never called a single law enforcement agency.
To me, his refusal to act and call off the mob that day and his refusal to condemn the violence was indefensible.
And this moment met with laughter. Trump ally Senator Josh Hawley fleeing the Capitol moments after he'd raised his fist in apparent support of the rioters outside. Former President Trump, eyeing 2024, accused the committee of spreading lies, as Vice Chair Liz Cheney punctuated the proceedings with this closing question.
Can a president who is willing to make the choices Donald Trump made during the violence of January 6th ever be trusted with any position of authority in our great nation again?
And that is a central question. Kristen Welker joins us now from Washington. And Kristen, this had been the last scheduled hearing, but the committee now says there will be more?
Gabe, that's absolutely right. Vice Chair Liz Cheney said the dam has begun to break and that new witnesses are coming forward, that they're getting new information. And she ended the hearing by saying she'll see everyone in September. You can expect in focus in this investigation will be the Secret Service. We are told that 2 of those agents who were in the car with former President Trump during that alleged dispute have retained legal counsel. Gabe.
Kristen Welker, thank you for more analysis on those hearings. I want to bring in John Allen. He's NBC News Digital's senior national politics reporter. And John, thanks so much for joining Top Story. As Kristen just mentioned, this is the end of what the Select Committee is calling the first phase of hearings, with more to come in September. So at this point, what's the picture they've painted of that day?
Well, that's a great question, Gabe, because there's been so much information. But basically, you have to go back to the beginning at the end of the election when former President Donald Trump, having lost, was told by his advisors that he had lost, decided to go out and tell what people have called the big lie, that there was fraud. He went through a series of machinations to try to undo the certification of actual electors, tried to put pressure on state legislators and State Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger in Georgia. He tried to put together a slate of fake electors. He tried to pressure the Justice Department to say that there was fraud. He threatened to fire the top Justice Department official. And then on January 6th, he got to the point where it was all up to Mike Pence, then the vice president, who was going to certify the electors as he's required to do by the Constitution. And Trump started a rally at the, basically at the foot of the White House. Urged his supporters to march to the Capitol, told them to fight like hell. And then, as we heard yesterday, in minute-by-minute detail, as Kristen Welker just said, former President Trump tried to go to the Capitol. When his Secret Service team told him he couldn't go, he was angry. He went back to the White House, and he sat and watched Fox News in a private dining room as the Capitol was attacked by the mob that he had sent there.
And so, John, last night's hearing had its fair share of dramatic moments, as we just saw. But to you, what was most significant?
A great question, Gabe. I break it down into three things. The most consequential was that video clip you just saw of former President Trump saying to his aides that he didn't want to say that the election was over. He didn't object to what was in his planned remarks because he thought that he had won the election. He didn't say that. What he said is he didn't want to tell the public that it was over. I think the most compelling was certainly the audio of Mike Pence's security detail inside the Capitol, fearing for their lives, telling family members goodbye. And according to one White House official whose testimony was played yesterday during the hearing, they were considering or close to, quote unquote, lethal options to get themselves and Mike Pence out for safety. And then the third thing, the comic, this has been memified across the internet in the last 24 hours. Josh Hawley, the senator from Missouri, at a quick trot running through the Capitol, fleeing from the protesters who he had riled up earlier with a fist pump.
Yeah, the committee seemed to single him out, really call him out for running out of the Capitol and make a point of it. So right now, these hearings are just in Congress, John, but let's talk criminal cases or potential criminal cases. In those, the problem for prosecutors that they would have is to establish intent. So in this instance, if it moved to some sort of criminal phase, they would have to establish that former President Trump knew exactly what he was doing, unleashing a violent mob on the Capitol in an effort to stay in power. Do you think the committee has come close to clearing that threshold?
It's hard for me to substitute my judgment for that of 12 prospective future jurors. But what I would say is that that's what the committee is certainly aiming at. And a lot of the testimony, not just yesterday, but in prior committee hearings has gone to that. But particularly in last night's primetime hearing, what you heard over and over again from White House officials was that all of Trump's team went to him or went to each other to try to find ways to convince him to try to say something to stop the riot that he was, again, watching on television in a private dining room. You know, the world is raging and burning outside the White House around him, and he's sitting there quietly in the private dining room watching Fox News and calling his allies on Capitol Hill, some of whom were in danger, calling Rudy Giuliani. And, you know, again and again, what you heard was everybody in his orbit was trying to get him to give a stand-down order to the mob that he had incited to go over there, and he simply wouldn't do it. And the argument from this committee, certainly, and potentially from prosecutors at some point, will be that that's not just benign neglect, but that the President of the United States, in fact, wanted that to happen, reveled in it happening, and had incited it in the first place.
John Allen, thanks so much. More to come in September. Now to the White House and President Biden's COVID diagnosis. His doctor saying his symptoms have improved as the White House posted photos of President Biden in a mask and back at work, where he had this short message.
Let me start by apologizing for my voice. I'm sure I'm much better than I sound.
Well, NBC News chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander joins us now. And Peter, what more do we know about how the president's doing?
Well, we heard from the president's doctor today in another letter. He said that the president's symptoms have improved. He said that his symptoms still do include a runny nose, fatigue, and what's now a loose cough. His temperature, we're told, reached 99.4 degrees last night. It has returned to normal. He took Tylenol to deal with some discomfort. And to avoid any interactions while taking that antiviral drug Paxlovid, President Biden has paused his cholesterol and blood-thinning medications. The bottom line, we saw the president. It's been important to this White House to demonstrate that he is continuing with a full schedule. He says he's working 8+ hours a day virtually. We saw him participating in a meeting with his economic team, talking about efforts to bring down gas prices. And earlier this morning, he received his intelligence briefing virtually as well, Gabe.
And Peter, we still don't know where the president contracted COVID. So are there any other confirmed positives in the White House?
Yeah, it's a good question. The White House says it simply doesn't know, that he was never identified as a close contact to anybody else. But they do say that 17 people have now been identified as close contacts to him. That includes the vice president, Kamala Harris, as well as his wife, the first lady. Both of them has tested negative so far. They both tested negative today, in fact. And none of those 17 close contacts, the White House says, has tested positive to this point. We'll keep a close eye on it, obviously, throughout the weekend, expecting to receive daily updates again from the president's doctor. Gabe?
Peter, thank you. Now to Florida, where a small sailboat crowded with nearly 200 people was intercepted just off the coast of the Keys. The people on board believed to be migrants from Haiti, a country torn apart by political violence and economic instability. As Sam Brock reports, we're seeing the desperate escapes more often.
Off the coast of southern Florida, a staggering display of people pushed to their limits. Nearly 200 men, women, and children believed to be fleeing from Haiti packed onto the deck of a small sailboat when they were intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard near Boca Chica Key in the upper Florida Keys. Their boat spotted after it ran aground in shallow water late Thursday morning. The Coast Guard and Miami-Dade police circling the vessel, tossing life jackets and bottles of water to the migrants on board. For hours, crews worked to evacuate passengers, and at least 3 adults and 2 children were sent to local hospitals. The Coast Guard telling NBC News the people on board will be returned to their country of origin. The agency couldn't confirm where the migrants were from, but the boat they came on looked nearly identical to ones used by Haitians in recent months. This intercept, the latest in what has been a record year. More than 6,000 Haitians stopped at sea since October, the highest such number in 2 decades. And many more making the dangerous journey on foot. Roughly 12,000 Haitians reaching Del Rio, Texas last fall, packed under a bridge for days before being sent home. This coming after Haiti's president was assassinated almost exactly a year ago in the already fragile country where kidnappings are commonplace.
In such cases where people feel like they are dying, whether they stay or go, and they decide to go. And that's what any human being on this earth would do. If you are in a burning hell, if you're in a burning house, you're going to try to get out by any means necessary.
Activists like Marlene Bastien are working to help Haitians who feel they have no choice but to flee. As they face widespread hunger, soaring inflation, crippling fuel costs, and rising gang violence at home.
And this would mark the first time since March that a boat originating from Haiti even made it this far. That's when 130 people landed off of Summerlin Key in the Florida Keys. Certainly there have been other efforts, but the U.S. and Haitian Coast Guards have intervened. Back in May, there was an 800-person boat that was Florida-bound that had to turn around because of engine issues, according to the Miami Herald. Gabe, back to you.
Sam, thank you. Still ahead tonight, TikTok challenge turns deadly. A New York City corrections officer charged with murder after fatally shooting an 18-year-old playing with a water gun. Why the deadly encounter may have started with a social media trend. Plus, officers ambushed. A police officer killed while sitting in his patrol car. Another injured. The arrest just made. And the candidate for New York governor attacked while on stage. What the congressman is saying tonight. We're back with a story out of New York City where an 18-year-old man is dead and a corrections officer is in custody. Now, police are investigating the role a water pellet gun that's gone viral on TikTok may have played in the alleged murder. Stephen Romo has the details.
Tonight, an off-duty correction officer is now the one behind bars, and it's drawing attention to these surprising water pellet guns in viral TikTok videos increasingly found at the center of injuries and even deaths across the country. Police say on Thursday night, 45-year-old Dion Middleton was arrested and charged with murder, manslaughter, and criminal possession of a weapon after allegedly shooting an 18-year-old man in the Bronx. The NYPD found Raymond Chalison unconscious and unresponsive with a real gunshot wound to his face. WNBC reporting 2 NYPD sources say as police rendered aid, an officer found one of those water pellet guns. There's no evidence that the victim pointed or fired the water gun, but it's one angle in their investigation, law enforcement sources tell WNBC. The Correction Officers Benevolent Association telling NBC Middleton, quote, fired a single shot in a situation where he felt his life was in immediate danger, particularly after feeling something hit his back. He pleaded not guilty today, according to the union. And after the incident, the NYPD posting this warning online, saying these guns are unlawful to possess in the city, characterized as air rifles. Violators found in possession of these will be issued a criminal summons, and the weapon will be confiscated. It's not the first time these blasters that shoot gel water beads propelled by a spring-loaded air pump have faced scrutiny from law enforcement.
TikTok made me buy it.
Viral TikTok videos show the pellet guns taking off in popularity.
Summer 2020 is still about to be a war zone.
It's called the Orbeez Challenge, but a variety of brands make the pellet guns. Other incidents across the country have prompted police departments to warn their communities. In Florida, a 19-year-old shot an Amazon driver, hitting him in the glasses and neck while driving. In the month of May, Newport, Rhode Island police had approximately 8 incidents resulting in multiple arrests. And in Akron, Ohio, a 17-year-old was beaten to death in a school parking lot following a gel gun fight, according to Akron police. We reached out to Splatterball, the company that makes the bead blaster found at the battle, according to authorities, but have not heard back.
And Stephen Romo joins us now live on set. Stephen, there are so many factors at play here. Such a tragic outcome, but what's the victim's family saying?
Well, we reached out to Chalison's family, and they're, of course, upset right now, so they didn't want to speak with us. But according to the Attorney General, Middleton reported to work later that morning where he was apprehended by the NYPD. The judge set his bail at $1 million. Our efforts to reach him, his family, or representatives were unsuccessful. Now, with regard to those actual water pellet guns, police departments are clearly concerned about them. For example, the Rhode Island Police Department warning those incidents are not only criminal acts, but they're also dangerous. They're stressing this TikTok challenge is not a joke, and there are consequences for incidents like this one.
Stephen Romo, thanks for joining us here on Top Story. Thank you. Now to that frightening attack on a political candidate. New York Congressman Lee Zeldin, who's running for governor, was attacked on stage during a speech. He's now speaking out about the violence on the campaign trail. Kathy Park reports.
And this,
in the middle of a stump speech,
is our last stand for New York.
Congressman and GOP gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin attacked mid-sentence.
You're done. You're done. You're done. You're done.
Our affiliate WHEC capturing the moment. A man holding a sharp object approaches a congressman. Zeldin, who was unharmed in the attack, describing that object as a weapon.
I noticed he had a weapon in his hand, and it had 2 holes where he had 2 fingers through the holes. It had 2 sharp dagger-like edges on it, and he was telling me, "You're done."
During the attack, Zeldin grabbing onto the man's wrist before the crowd and campaign staff intervened. Monroe County sheriffs later identifying the suspect as 43-year-old David Jacobonis. He was subdued and restrained with zip ties. Jacobonis charged with attempted second-degree assault. The sheriff later releasing him on his own recognizance overnight. After the incident, Zeldin returning to the stage to finish his remarks.
As soon as the sheriffs removed the attacker, I went to go finish the speech. I think it's important for us to always be standing up for what we believe in, not to be intimidated.
It's unclear why Zeldin was targeted, but the attack comes against the backdrop of heightened political tensions across the country. An Ipsos online survey on behalf of the Violence Prevention Research Program found that roughly 20% of respondents consider political violence to be, in general, at least sometimes justified, with about 12% saying they would be somewhat willing to resort to violence themselves. But Governor Kathy Hochul, who Zeldin is challenging, and President Biden both condemning the attack. Biden adding, violence has absolutely no place in our society or our politics.
I believe that political scores should be settled at the ballot box. I don't believe that there's any room in this country, in this state, in politics, for there to be violence on a campaign trail.
And tonight, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, like what may have motivated the suspect to attack Zeldin. Also, it's still unclear if Jacobonis is represented by an attorney. Gabe?
Kathy Park, thank you. When we come back, end of an era. WWE founder Vince McMahon retires amid an alleged hush money scandal. Who will be taking over? That's next. Back now with Top Stories news feed and the deadly shooting at an Iowa campground. Police say 3 people were found dead at the Makokata Caves State Park just before 7 this morning. The 23-year-old suspect was also found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The park remains closed, and a camp there was evacuated. It's unclear if the victims knew their killer. An arrest tonight after a deadly ambush on police in Rochester, New York. Authorities say the 21-year-old suspect fired 17 rounds into an unmarked patrol car while hiding in nearby bushes. The 54-year-old veteran of the force and father killed. Another officer and bystander injured. Police say the suspect was later found in a crawl space of a vacant house and was taken into custody. And WWE founder and CEO Vince McMahon is retiring. The 77-year-old announced his decision in a statement, adding his daughter Stephanie and WWE President Nick Khan will become co-CEOs. Stephanie will also serve as chairwoman. The announcement comes a month after he stepped back from his executive duties amid allegations he paid millions of dollars in hush money to multiple former employees. Turning now to power and politics, where former President Trump and his Vice President Mike Pence are going head-to-head on the campaign trail for opposing candidates in the governor's race in Arizona. This, of course, coming just after Thursday night's January 6th hearings. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard is on the ground for us.
The choice for the Republican Party's future is the clearest yet today in Arizona. Donald Trump and his former vice president both on the campaign trail on the same day in the same state, backing opposing candidates in a contentious battle for Arizona governor. Pence for Karen Taylor Robeson, a real estate consultant.
Karen Taylor Robeson as the next governor of Arizona.
And Donald Trump holding a late-night rally for Carrie Lake.
Carrie Lake, I'll tell you, she is incredible.
Lake is a former local news anchor who left her job last year for politics, is an election denier and unrelenting defender of the former president.
When we had President Trump at the helm, we had a secure border, strong economy, and safe streets.
Thursday night's public hearing making the threat posed to Pence on January 6th clear. Now, a notable coalition standing with him today, including current Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowers, who testified last month on the pressure he faced by Trump allies to overturn Biden's 2020 win in the state.
Is this a battle for the soul of the Republican Party?
Well, whether it's the soul right now, but everybody's got to reassess. Do we want to be a party that's looking into the past with some kind of grudge match all the time?
Current Governor Doug Ducey also endorsing Taylor Robeson.
More and more conservative voices lending their names and their time and their energy to me.
Lake now calls the media that she once worked for the right hand of the devil.
I've already done an interview. I know what your question is.
Trump has suggested that he will run for president again, but a few in the GOP are flirting with Pence as a possible alternative.
The vice president is a real moral force in our party. He's a real true leader.
Mail-in voting is already underway ahead of the August 2nd primary in this what has become a proxy battle between these Trump and Pence coalitions. But ultimately, Gabe, it's going to come down to the Republican voters here in the state of Arizona. Gabe?
Vaughn Hilliard, thank you. Turning now to a closer look at the deadly consequences of fake prescription drugs. Teenagers dying at alarming rates from overdoses. The DEA saying social media is playing a major role. WNBC's Jonathan Dienst has the story.
He was the kid that everybody wanted to be around.
Max Mather was 18 years old. His parents say their son was happy, humble, caring.
His smile lit up a room.
Max was home with his parents and brothers Sam and Luke Friday night, March 5th, 2021. They were joking around while making milkshakes. The next morning, the high school senior never woke up.
He was laying in his bed and he had passed and he looked very peaceful.
Max died from a lethal dose of fentanyl. He had taken a tainted prescription pill, fake oxycodone, a pill he bought from a drug dealer on the social media app Snapchat.
We're living proof that one pill can kill. I mean, we had, a beautiful, bright, vibrant, happy kid who made one bad decision.
A teen's bad decision becoming far easier through social media apps. Dealers use apps like Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat to target teens, advertising prescription pills like Xanax, Adderall, Percocet, and oxycodone. NBC News has shown some examples of accounts that have since been suspended by Instagram. To make a purchase, teens can direct message sellers by using emojis like these. In some cases, the pills are delivered right to a home. Counterfeit pills laced with deadly fentanyl are flooding the U.S., often coming from Mexico and China. Of the 20 million fake pills seized by the Drug Enforcement Administration last year, 4 in 10 tested had enough fentanyl to kill, a 40% risk. Research shows teen deaths from fentanyl tripled in just one 2-year span. And nationwide, there were more than 107,000 overdose deaths last year.
This is unprecedented. We've never seen numbers like this before.
Here in New York, the DEA now has a cyber unit trying to track dealers who are targeting teens on social media.
They're utilizing all these different emojis to entice the need and the desire to take these pills.
Special Agent in Charge Frank Tarantino says social media companies need to step up.
We want them to do more. They need to do more, and we're going to hold them accountable.
In statements, some companies tell us they're taking additional steps to crack down on illegal drug sale postings, with Snapchat, for example, saying it uses advanced technology to block search results for dangerous drug-related content and will strengthen our support for law enforcement investigations. In Max's case, the alleged online dealer, just a teenager himself, was arrested.
Live to the max, that was what described Max.
Max's family sharing their story to try to raise awareness.
It's really, really hard to go to bed every night thinking about this and wake up every day thinking about it.
We're losing beautiful, wonderful children who had the world to offer, and they're just being taken too young. And Max was absolutely one of them.
Jonathan Dienst, News 4.
Heartbreaking. Coming up, right place, right time. The 2-year-old climbing out of an open 6th-floor window. 2 men on the ground racing to save her. That video next. Back now with top stories, Global Watch, and growing outrage in Brazil after a deadly police raid. Authorities say the operation carried out inside a favela in Rio lasted for 12 hours. At least 18 people killed, including a police officer. Authorities say they were hunting gang members suspected of robbing banks and cargo. And the heart-stopping rescue caught on camera in eastern China. New video shows the 2-year-old girl climbing out of a window on the 6th floor and then falling onto an awning. 2 men then rushed to the scene and managed to catch the girl before she hit the ground. Incredibly, the child did not suffer life-threatening injuries. Turning now to the war in Ukraine, where one 9-year-old girl is surviving war and the broken heart. I spent some time with a brave young Ukrainian and the doctor who saved her life. Take a look. The way 9-year-old Polina Shepanyuk smiles, you'd never guess what her year has been like. What do you miss the most about Ukraine?
From my family.
Polina is among the millions of displaced Ukrainian children. So many are heartbroken, but what sets her apart is a literal hole in her heart. As a mother, how scary is that?
It's very scary because all 8 years when she was sick, and I always think that it is hard.
Her mother, Katerina, had watched her daughter trying to be a typical 9-year-old, but she'd tire quickly because of a heart defect. If left untreated, it could be deadly.
I want to ride a bike like all my friends. I want to swimming. I want to do all sports.
But after the war broke out, she and her mother fled to Poland. Were you scared?
Maybe a little bit.
An organization called Gift of Life International used donations to pay for their travel to the U.S. How would you describe Pauline?
Vivacious.
And then Dr. Sean Levchuk donated his time and expertise to perform the minimally invasive surgery at St. Francis Hospital and Heart Center.
At 9 years of age, they should be worrying about, having fun.
Tonight, 2 days after that surgery, Paulina is having fun and smiling.
I'm happy because my surgery is good.
She and her mother expect to return home soon. The war may not be over, but in at least one way, her heart is no longer broken. For Tom Llamas, I'm Gabe Gutierrez in New York. Stay right there. More news is on the way.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.